What's up, everyone? This is Bob and Chris from Join or Die podcast. Uh, we're in here last week. We did a couple shorts, so make sure you check out them. Like and subscribe to the page, share, comment, do all that fun stuff. Today we got a good one. We got quite a few things we want to talk about. Trump allegedly called Kamala Harris a bitch from sources that he privately called her a bitch, even though she's been publicly calling him criminal, felon, all this other stuff. And hey, guess what? Technically, he is a convicted felon. Like it or not, it's the truth right now. Might be overturned on appeal, but as of now, he is a convicted felon. She may be a bitch, but so two things can be right at the same time in that situation. We're going to talk about media coverage on, so this week or last week, I should say, Kamala Harris finally came up with some kind of policy, but the problem is it's not her policy. Pretty sure Donald Trump said it first, no tax on tips. We'll get into that. We're going to get into Tim Walz's alleged stolen valor. Tommy Robinson, if anybody doesn't know who he is, he's an activist, you would say, in the UK.
Yeah. That they're trying to paint him as a right-wing extremist or racist, but he's basically a guy who, I don't want to say he's an Alex Jones, but he definitely was clairvoyant by several years ago, calling out about the radical Islamic rumors in the country, the illegal migrants who are now grooming and raping 12-year-old girls. And it seems if you say that, if you're calling out a horrific crime, that somehow you're anti-Islam or what's the word? Islamophobic. It has nothing that we all know. It has nothing to do with the religion. I don't care if you're white, black, or whatever. You're raping little girls. You're garbage. He's calling it out now. I guess in England, this is exactly why we went to war with them. How many 250 years ago is because now apparently that's considered hate speech and you can get locked up for it. So just telling the truth and trying to protect pedophiles, pederasts against, little girls. Yeah. That's considered hate speech. So
we got that. We also got another bombshell. Things just keep on coming from this Trump assassination attempt. I don't know if this was necessarily in relation to that, but apparently a Secret Service agent abandoned her post to go breastfeed.
In a secure room with her family.
Yes.
With family members in a secure room.
Ooh. Yes.
Okay. So we'll get into that.
You guys may not remember this. This is now, we're going back about 4 years now, but during that whole COVID pandemic, our current vice president / possibly president, her vice president pick, that gets confusing. Her running mate, Tim Walz, who was the governor of Minnesota, correct?
Yeah.
Issued a curfew during the COVID times. And there was a video, if you don't remember, we're going to talk about it. There was cops actually going around while as they're enforcing this curfew. They were actually shooting citizens and civilians with paintballs.
Yeah. If you guys are, again, like both of us, me being retired, but Bob, also both of us having a background in law enforcement. I know a lot of people sometimes turn around and say, why are cops calling out other cops? Stay tuned. Because I can tell you right now, this is going to be a rant against these just jackbooted folks. I don't know how else to say it. So it's going to get heated. So if you want to hear cops call out other cops, stay by.
And finally, if we have time for it, get ready. It's election time. So what does that mean? New pandemic, possibly. Monkeypox is coming. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that fun stuff. Let's get into it.
Here we go.
Let's go. Trump calling Harris a bitch, allegedly, in private. So have you heard about it?
What does it mean in private? Who's the said? I've heard, this is right up there with I can't even say it's the very fine people bullshit, because you have the proof when you play the whole video, puts the nuance into it. So it wasn't what they meant to say. This is up there with, what was he? He was over. It was in Normandy, and he said, "I'm not walking through this graveyard. It's full of losers," which was complete bullshit. And apparently, like some general said he said it, but even John Bolton, who wrote a book on how much he hates Trump, said, "I was there. That was never said."
Yeah.
So this is right up there with. I'm just gonna say it, and it's right up there with like, "Hey Bob, when are you gonna stop beating your wife?" It's like, well, I'm not. It's like, well, you didn't answer.
I'm not going to stop beating her.
But like, how do you prove something that there's no proof of? It's like, well, why did you call her a bitch? It's like, well, didn't. It's like, well, do you have proof of it? It's like, I didn't know I have to prove something that there's no proof
That's
of.
not how evidence works.
Yeah,
That's funny.
yeah, exactly.
I was having a conversation. This is completely sidetracked, but it's kind of funny. My 11-year-old, we're talking, and she goes, "Hey, Dad, did you know that whatever percentage of the ocean still hasn't been discovered yet?" I'm like, "Yeah, babe, I know. It's really big. Just kind of like space hasn't been fully discovered. Probably never will." She says, "Well, mermaids could exist then." And I was like, "I don't think so." And she was like, "Well, if you don't have evidence that they don't exist." I was like, "That's not how evidence works, sweetheart."
She'd be a good defense attorney.
I was like, "Yeah, yeah, you're putting up that you're deflecting. Here's a fire over here. Check this out." But that's not how evidence works.
Yeah.
And when it comes to stuff like this is going to be real quick. Sources say when you hear that crap in the media, sources say just disregard it. Disregard it until somebody comes out and have video or something like that, because it's hearsay. Anybody can just say, well, I can go out
That's
right
not even,
now.
I can't even say that's hearsay, because hearsay is usually, it's like, I heard someone tell me that they said this about you. It's like, well, that doesn't count because the party I heard it from is saying they heard it from that party. We don't even know who the original party was. They're just saying sources
No,
said.
A said, the B said,
Why
the C
can't,
said, all right, well, find me B.
right, why can't Trump just say, well, I heard from sources, you're full of shit?
Yeah. Well, he could.
Well,
But the problem is, like,
such
the
nonsense.
lack of
And even if
evidence.
they said it, who cares?
That's where I'm getting at.
Who cares?
She is on. Maybe he called her a bitch, and like I said before, she's on stage calling him a felon, calling him a pedophile, a sexual.
It's a subjective
assaulter.
word.
Guess what? Not a pedophile. She didn't call him a pedophile. I don't want to spread fake news. She called him a sexual predator, something like that, a sexual deviant or assault.
Meanwhile, the guy
Whatever.
you're working for sniff a little girl's hair.
Yeah. Whatever the case may be, you can call him a felon. Guess what? That is a provable fact.
Actually, by saying he's a sexual predator, that actually could be
Defamation.
Yeah, because he was
Well,
found not guilty in a criminal court. The civil
court was a sexual assault.
yeah.
So, but he's Trump actually apparently is suing. I can't remember who it is off the bat. I think it might be somebody in the news media. Maybe I'm wrong, but he does have a lawsuit going on for defamation because this person actually called him a rapist. He was never. I think CNN or MSNBC the other day actually had to retract like live and say, "Listen, I just want to make sure like he was not convicted of rape." So they actually fact checked in real time.
He was found civilly liable for
sexual assault,
but was found criminally innocent or not guilty, whatever you want to say, of rape. Which this is almost like the OJ thing. The only difference is we all know we all know that was ridiculous. But it's the same thing. Like technically he was not guilty in a criminal court, but yes, he was found civilly liable. But murder and then you have is it sexual assault? Is it rape? Is it whatever? Is it a harassment? We know where this is going. The dude was just shot how many weeks ago? A few weeks ago. He was just shot, something like that.
July 13th.
And we got to lower the temperature in the room. And, just a few weeks later, he's a criminal. He's this, he's that.
But you're being conservative. I would give 4 days at max before they
But now
they had the congressional hearings. They had 1 day of decent, honest questions at a congressional hearing. The next day they were calling him all kinds of names again, a felon and comparing him to Hitler and what have you.
And again, it's just, they're going to ramp it up. The Social Security, there was a breach in the Social Security, data or whatever you want to say, but basically I think it was like 1 billion. I'm not exactly sure how this is counted. Maybe the people are dead, but they said over 1 billion Social Security numbers because there's not that many people in the country. So maybe these people have been dead for a while. 1 billion, Social Security numbers or information were hacked into. And it's just, well, how about that? Dead people are voting right around. That's getting close to fall. It's getting close to election season.
On that note, that was a nice natural segue. It's getting a little bit closer to fall. Fall is actually me and Chris's favorite time of the year. We're big horror film freaks. So when it gets a little bit closer to October, stay tuned. We will have a horror movie episode where we'll be rating our movies, and maybe we'll play that game we played before. What's your favorite genre? Whatever. But it is getting closer to fall. Today, we usually drink bourbon, but today we're doing some good old Oktoberfest.
I've been drinking a little bit more.
This guy's beating me.
So,
cheers.
This is from we'll just say it's a very good Pennsylvania brewery. Can't name names without sponsorship, but one of the best Pennsylvania breweries. We'll leave it at that.
All right.
Here we go.
Next thing we want to talk about. Kamala Harris's policy on tips? I don't think so. Clearly, Donald Trump came up with this first. She stole it. But the funny thing is...
receipts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Receipts.
But the funny thing is the media coverage. So there was a tweet by, I want to say ABC, when Donald Trump announced his no tax on tips.
They twisted it.
This is going to cost $250 billion at a nonpartisan.
Yeah, it's going to cost the government $250 billion, whatever.
$250 billion over 10 years.
First of all, good. Yeah. Good. If you think I'm going to feel bad for the frigging government that has to actually not act like an out of control teenager who's spending on a credit card that has no limit, I don't give a shit. Good. I hope it does cost you this. Stop starting wars. See, I don't want to go on my rant too early. Stop starting wars. Start action. When they say pay your fair share, spend your fair share.
Yeah.
How about that?
First of all, it's not costing the government $250 billion.
It's not, no.
Because that wasn't their money to begin. That is your money.
They're basically saying this is like the mob coming to a store and going, you're not paying the extortion rate.
And they want to complain about middle class and how they're being they're being taxed too much. This is literally a tax on the middle class, people who depend on their tips, hospitality service. They're not making like servers and bartenders aren't making bank and their checks.
This is a smart move by Trump because Nevada's in play. Or Nevada, whatever you call it.
Nevada.
And that's a big, I mean, you look at Vegas, Reno, you look at these cities, this is a big area for what you call it, hospitality service.
Absolutely.
Serving. I bartended. I bussed tables when I was younger. I valeted. I worked on a lot for tips when I was younger. Almost everybody who's blue collar or middle class or working class has done this. And, to sit there and to turn around, and what Trump did was great. I think it helps. I think it was a smart political move, but it's also showing, again, I'm working for the working class. And then she basically hijacks it. And somehow now it's her plan. It's like, it's such bullshit because you said you have the receipts. You just watched the video. And didn't she come out with the bill?
So she didn't come out with the bill.
Or not come out, she was the deciding vote.
She was the deciding vote on the, what was it called? The Democrats
was it the inflation?
Yeah, the Democrats are genius in naming bills. They make it sound good. Yeah. But in reality, all the pork that's involved in these bills usually do the opposite. It was the Inflation Reduction.
That's it, yeah.
Now, this Inflation Reduction Act sounds great, right? Inflation's high. We want to reduce it. How are you going to do that? Well, how's inflation created? Well, Elon Musk did a great interview the other day with Donald Trump, and he talked about it. It's government overspending.
Exactly.
So what this did was literally spend more money that we don't have. You granted IRS 87,000 more agents. And what did they do? Like the next day, we're going to start taxing hospitality. It was her fault. She was the yay. It was 50 no, 50 nay, 50 yay. She went with the affirmative, and she's proud of it, and she says it. The funny thing about this, now I'm reading from The Hill. You guys can check it out. It's called Harris Blindsided Democrats with No Tax on Tips Plan. So they didn't even know she was going to do this. She didn't know. Maybe she just did it like the top of her head. I doubt that because she usually never goes off a script. But anyway, so I want you to read a little bit. Vice President Harris blindsided Democratic lawmakers and progressive activists by endorsing a proposal first floated by former President Trump. See, even they're admitting it.
Yeah.
To exempt tips from service and hospitality workers from taxes. An idea Democrats had previously criticized as bogus and a ploy for votes. Now she's doing it. But it's the best thing since sliced bread. Now that she's doing it. The attempt to like recreate Kamala Harris when they were running for president in 2020, she got less than 1% of the vote, didn't even make it past the first primary. Nobody wanted her. And that's your people, Democrats. That's your own voters who would not vote for her. So don't try and like put it on the conservatives now that they don't want her and try to call them racist and sexist and all this other kind of stuff. Because you had a chance to vote for her to be your presidential nominee, and you did. Now that she's been installed as the nominee.
It has been installed, which actually I'm curious, and a lot of people are saying this. I think they're going to invoke 25th Amendment.
Yep.
Get him out.
I think it's going to be the October surprise.
I think they're going to put her in, and then it's going to be, well, there's our first alleged African-American woman.
No, not African-American. They never say that. They say black because she's Jamaican than Indian. So they don't say African American. They say black.
Well, how people, I don't understand how this works. I mean, I have North African. Am I black? Does that count?
You're African.
Exactly. So I'm African.
You're African American.
So before African, I was going to say, I'm taupe. So it's like I don't whatever. They're playing the game anyway.
That's all they have is identity politics. That's all they have. And
but
you know
they're going
why?
to try to put her
But
in
you
there.
know why? Because it hits an emotion. It hits an emotion, and for valid reasons in the past, people were treated like crap in this country. Country moved on, well, a lot of people did, but some people are still stuck in that past. It's a nasty past,
And they bring it up
you
every
can't
4
run
years.
away from it.
And they bring it up every 4 years.
And it works.
And the problem is people vote with emotions. And this
Absolutely.
is exactly why we're where we're at. So I think they're going to try to put her in, and then they're going to turn around and call you a racist if you don't vote for the first woman of color, or however they put it. You know,
Yeah, but they didn't vote for the first woman of color.
That's
what it gets me.
I think Trump should have put Tulsi Gabbard. I'm not against JD Vance
as VP.
I think so.
Well, she would have.
I think she's very smart. I'm not against JD Vance.
She still has very left leaning policies, though.
Well,
She does.
What's funny is Trump has actually, I believe her and Trump are getting together.
They are. I heard
in
that.
a prep to go against Kamala
Well,
Harris.
because she murdered.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, this is where
Not really murdered. YouTube, sorry. She destroyed Kamala Harris in the debate when they were having
so
primary.
And guess what? Nothing's changed. The debate should be Kamala Harris keeps saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Why don't you do it? I understand you're vice president, but you have backed your boss in everything.
She said it.
So
She's been intimately involved.
You're an accomplice to everything that he is both. You can't shy away from this record if you have been supportive of it. And this is where Trump just needs to stay on point, needs to turn around and don't fall for any of the games. Just turn around and go, here's my record. Here's your record.
Yeah.
Stop saying you're doing it when you have the opportunity now, or you've had the opportunity, or at the very least, even if you haven't had the opportunity, if Kamala Harris came out and said, I am not for, or me and Joe have disagreed, me and the president have disagreed on these things. I can at least turn around and go, well, you know what? You're the vice president. You only have so much say. But if I know you're turning around saying, I don't agree with this, and we just agree to disagree, you'd at least have a little ground to stand on. She doesn't, because she's 100% for. She was the last one in the room for the pullout of Afghanistan. And now they just had the parade. It was like $7 billion. And they're flying. Well, they're trying to fly those Black Hawks. There's a little. If you watch the video, those Black Hawks. I'm not terribly worried about them against our Night Stalkers. But you know, it was basically that they were rubbing it in. The Taliban or whoever were basically filming MRAPs, Black Hawks going down, guys carrying M4s instead of AKs. Everything that we left behind that she was the last in the room for.
Yeah,
they're basically they had a a go pound sand kind of video that we got all your shit. That's what they were basically doing. So just policy after policy. You can't name one they really did well.
Well, getting back to where it was, and now I think she rolled out a new policy, which is basically free money to people.
$25,000, which is not going to help people trying to sell a home or buy a home, because if you're the working class and you're saving up every dime you can, now someone just came in with 25 grand higher, so they can now potentially be easier to outbid you on it.
But what's that going to do? Also, that is free
Flood the housing
money, but it's going to flood but it's free money from the government, so it's going to create more inflation.
And where's that money coming from?
Our debt is what is it, $35 trillion? Whatever it is, it's some ridiculous enough number. And guess what? Trump's not exempt from that. He had a huge.
Oh yeah,
but we did have COVID. But still, it's president after president after president until somebody actually has the cojones to just literally cut the debt and say, no, we're going to take from these programs that I know it's not a popular opinion, but you're going to thank me in the end. Until that happens, the debt's just going to keep on going up.
Do you know how much debt we could save if we cut a lot of regular agencies?
Yeah.
Just stop funding them. The IRS, easy. You can cut the IRS tax code down to 10% with a flat tax. Mm-hmm. All right. It's a flat tax. It's 10%, 12%, 50%. You keep it a flat, 50, whatever. You keep it a flat tax. That's it. You don't need all these agents. You could probably do this with just a couple thousand agents or over keeping your books. That's it. ATF, gone. That's the end of it. You're out. Let the states run it. Let them do the background checks because that's what they do anyway. It's the state police that do the background checks. You don't need the ATF. They don't give a shit about tobacco. They don't give a shit about liquor. It's always the states that do this. They're only concerned about firearms. The Second Amendment is all you need. You want to do a background check? That's really all you need. The state can run that. Get the hell out. They don't do shit. I mean, one job that they've had that they didn't frig up. All right, Ruby Ridge, Fast and Furious, Waco, they're a group of screw ups. They don't even know how to operate a gun, and somehow firearms is in their, their name. Get out of here. How many other groups can you say? The Department of Education, even people in my family who are Democrats have said the public schools have failed. Get them out. There's no more taxes that should go to public schools. Start having vouchers. Get them. I mean, you can just cut so many agencies
and
Shapiro
was that was one of the worries that the Democrats had was Shapiro was actually for school choice.
Sure.
No.
He's moderate. He actually makes some sense.
Yeah, but you know what, man?
I'm not a fan of everything he says, clearly, but as a moderate,
I'm sure he would have flip flopped if he was on me. I'm sure there would have been a flip flop on that.
Well,
just because, listen, you're vice president, you want the power too, and you're gonna have to change your shit on this.
Probably, and maybe he would have because he seemed like he was walking back some stuff. But guess what? Apparently, and it's
but you know what? Here's another thing. How long's he been going there? About a year now? Year and a half?
Something like that.
Maybe two. Whatever it was.
It's not as bad as Wolf.
No. Oh, absolutely not. Your for school choice. Okay, where's it at?
Because the teachers union controls the Democrat Party,
and that's the problem.
And that's the problem.
That's the problem.
That's the end of that. But apparently, it's not going to matter because he's Jewish and it's 1930 something in Poland.
Disgusting.
And the Democrat Party's running everything.
Now listen,
it's insane.
Listen, part of me.
I'm actually glad.
So am I. I'm happy they
I was worried. I was worried. I'm like, if they pick Shapiro, this is going to be a problem. Because Shapiro is a moderate person. And it's like he's kind of appealing to the more moderate side of the Democrat Party, independents, non-Trumpers. I'm like, he's pretty appealing. They picked this boob. And I'm like, oh my God, thank Christ. Because I'm like, I was worried about Shapiro because I'm like, the dude comes off pretty, he's like likable. Yeah, he does. I'm not even a guy. I voted for him. We live in the state.
Right now,
he's not awful.
No, right now I'm not a full hater. Now,
no, I don't. I don't agree.
I'm not a supporter.
No, I would rather have someone else. Can I get through 4 years with him? Yes.
Yeah.
Tim Walz. Maybe we can move right into that.
Boom.
There's the
There we go. Another segue, natural segue. That's what we do here. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that fun stuff. Let's get rid of Tim Walz.
It's excellent. I can't stand this dude. I didn't know who the hell he even was until whenever the hell they announced.
Well, I remember him just from COVID.
I'm so sick of this dude already.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of COVID, I didn't know this was done. Apparently, the news did a good job of hiding this. What was the vid? So there's a video going around now. I don't know where in Minnesota this was, if it was Minneapolis or suburbs. I don't know where, but apparently under the governor's authority, whoever the department was, they freaking indicted. But you have on YouTube, just type in YouTube, Minnesota police paintballing people during COVID.
We're combining. Cool.
No,
that's good. That's fine.
All right. Oh, we got the other thing too.
We're good.
Yeah,
we just combine. We just.
So you have
pros.
You have. I mean, you want to talk about goons, dude. I mean, I'm all for. Listen, I did the job for 21 years in Philly, and there are times where we work together. You got to go hands on. You have to go hands on because some people are just bad people and they don't care if you have a badge or a gun. They're going to fight you, like literally try to fight you.
Yeah.
And then there's times where you have to turn around and go, what the frick are we doing? Like they had these goons walking down the street. I shouldn't even say walking down the street. Goose stepping probably would be a better word. Down the street, yelling and screaming at the Minnesota, I don't know, again,
Minnesotans?
They're
citizens of Minnesota.
Citizens of Minnesota were sitting on their porch during COVID, and these guys were walking down the street screaming at them in like this booming, authoritative voice. Get in your house. Get it. I'm like, you move, get it. I mean, they're sitting on their porch. They're not even in the street.
Shooting them with paintballs.
And then turned around and said, open up on them. Open up on them. And then just started firing paintballs. Now, some people may go, well, they're paintballs, not the end of the world. One, I've been hit with them. Ammunition, it sucks. You feel it. Two, the amount of, dude, I was so mad when I was watching that, because I'm just imagining, like, if I'm a part of this. If I'm walking down the street, one, there's no way. I'm thinking, like, well, maybe this is just them trying to show aggression, but not actually do anything.
Yeah.
When they started to open up on them, it was like women on the porch. I, I think I would have lost my shit. If I was a cop, I would have lost my shit. And if I was on the porch and that's my mother or my wife or somebody like that, how do I know? First of all, how would I even know as someone who carries? How would I even know that these are paintball? If I just hear that clacking going off, I hear open up on them.
Yeah, if you're not,
You
yeah,
got a
well,
difference
you
between a
hear
paintball gun and a
open up.
rifle, but you
Yeah.
know, in that stress moment, I'm like, dude, it was so disgusting. And this is exactly why I hate cops. As a former, now listen, I have no problem saying it. There are probably, if I had to put how many cops are actually good cops doing the job, 10, 15%?
You're probably under a little bit. I guess it depends on where you are too.
Let
Oh,
me put it-
50%.
let me
You're
put-
putting percentage. I'm sorry.
Percentages, 10 to 15%. When I say good cops, I'm talking about cops, if they were given that order, absolutely not.
No, they would actually stand up for themselves.
Exactly.
So I don't think that's what I signed up for. My oath was uphold the Constitution.
Right. Or just turn around and go, fuck no.
Yeah.
No, I'm not
I
going.
still think 10 to 15. You might be right. I don't know. We can delve into that.
Let me put it this way. It is the minority.
It's not 9.
The minority.
Yeah.
It's well within the minority. And this is exactly why
So-
one of the reasons why I can no longer even do this job, because you're surrounded by cowards.
I have New York Post article reference to it. Shocking video shows cops enforcing Tim Walz's curfew by shooting paintballs at residents as they stood in their doorways.
Doorways and
They're not in stores. They're not in the public. They're in their doorways.
But did they go down to Minnesota? Were they in Minneapolis when they were burning down a police station? No.
Now, this is published August 13th, 2024, but this clearly happened. It happened May 30th, 2020. Disturbing video shows, and if you go to this article, it's a New York
Wasn't
Post.
that one? Wasn't that May 30th? Wasn't that when the George Floyd? Well, I want to say it was right around that time that the George Floyd video was released.
It could be. Could be.
I believe it was.
Disturbing video shows dozens of riot cops enforcing Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's curfew order, spreading out in a Minneapolis neighborhood and peppering residents with paintballs while they stood on their porches and in their front doorways. The newly resurfaced clip, filmed May 30th, 2020, by Tanya Kerson, just outside her home, resembles a scene from a dystopian movie. It shows a tan Humvee rolling slowly down a quiet street in the Whittier, I don't know how it is, a neighborhood, followed by at least 25 heavily armored cops. And there's video in this clip. I'll try to, if I remember, I'll try to share the website.
So just real quick, the George Floyd murder was May 25th, 2020.
5 days later.
5 days later, this was happening. While the city's burning, they're in the suburbs worried about people on their porch for COVID.
Paintball.
All right.
All right. Okay. Well, we didn't talk about a stolen valor. That's what the hell.
Well,
that's
listen, yeah. So
like.
first of all, I blame the cops more than him. I mean, you know, they can easily turn around and go, nope, not doing it. And they didn't have the balls to do it. But let's go back to who gave the orders. And this guy, you can tell he's a coward for many reasons. One, to give that kind of authoritative message. Go around, and these cops should be indicted. I still, to this day, I don't know what the statute of limitations is. It's probably passed, but they should have been indicted for what they did. And to go back to Tim Walz for being a coward, he had 24 years of, I believe it was 24 years of service in the military, which is very honorable. You're still deployed, even if it's Southern Italy. You know, you're still deployed. You're away from your family. That I respect. You know, I don't care if he's a cook. People have to eat. When you're hungry, your cook's your best friend.
You had jobs in the
Right.
military. You're not everyone just infantry and seeing war all the time.
But he's trying to say he was at war, and you have people. I think it was Jack Sobek and Sean
Well, he's
Ryan showing their
he's
videos.
using the verbiage that would make people that he was at war.
Sure,
Like I was.
he's
I-
deliberately doing
yeah.
that too. You don't make that mistake. You know as well as I do. If you're a cop and you were an admin cop, you never turn around and complain about business on the street, because if you do, the cops that are working the street are going to turn around and go, "Dude, you're out of desk your whole career." So to put it in from what we would deal with into the military, there's nothing wrong. If you've never been in combat, you've never been in combat. There's no shame in doing that. Some people serve during non-war times. It doesn't mean you're a coward. You signed up for this. And everybody needs to do a particular MOS because that's the way everything runs. You have your combat guys, your infantry guys, your artillery guys, and then you have your admin guys. But when you're an admin guy and you're trying to take credit for the valor that the combat guys are going through, it damn well knowing you never did that, and you are intentionally speaking in the language you're speaking to misrepresent your service, you should get called out on that.
Yeah.
You should get called out. This wasn't an accidental.
No.
He even lied about his rank. He said he was a command master sergeant sergeant major.
There's a challenge
sergeant major
with that emblem
with the rank, with the chevrons, the 3 up and 3, the under rockers or whatever you call them, with whatever the insignia is in the middle. And people who worked for him or worked over him said he never even went to the school for command masters.
Now that tells me that
sergeant major.
I mean, what's the point of that? Because that's eventually going to come out. People know.
If he was a sergeant,
you weren't there by yourself in some room where nobody had contact with you. You were there with like this. So I have an article.
Like, I can't turn around
Former
and say,
battalion commander of National Guard units in Walz served and speaks out and blast Walz amid stolen valor controversy. So you're working with people.
That's what I mean. It makes no sense. Like, I can't turn around and say I was a lieutenant in the police department because everybody's like, no, you weren't. You weren't. Like, okay, fine. Like, you can't lie about, like, people are going to know, like, no, you're right. And the thing was, I think he was a sergeant major. He wasn't, which is a very high. I think it's like E8. Or maybe it's maybe an E9.
I think it's an E8.
Is it an E8?
I think it's.
What did it say first?
I want to say E8. He was an E7. No, he was an E7.
So I think E8 is first sergeant. And I think after first sergeant is sergeant major. That's E9. And then there's a couple. There's a couple E9s. It's like sergeant major, then it's like command sergeant major.
Well, either way, like he wasn't what he said he was.
But he was way up. He was way up on the enlisted scale.
Yeah.
There was no reason to lie. If you're just a sergeant major, that's a very respectable position. There's no reason to lie. And then not even just lie, but like you said, the challenge coin, like, can't put that insignia. That's not your brain.
Now, here's my thing. Is this going to be brought up in there? Because it's debate time.
It shows dishonesty. It shows dishonesty.
Yeah, but debate time is coming. Are they going to actually focus on the issue or how J.D. Vance and the Republicans pounce on that? Because it's always Republicans pounce.
Well, here's the thing. J.D. Vance is in a position where he was a Marine who was in combat. Okay. So he can talk about this.
Yeah.
And he can talk about, again, most people would say, well, what's this have to do with my inflation rates, or what's this going to do? How's this going to affect the 7 point whatever % interest on housing? What happens is the person is a dishonest person. They are not honorable when they are deliberately lying and misrepresenting the resume. That's the end of it. If he just turned around and was like, yeah, I never served in combat. Well, people who served in combat are just, I always tip my cap to them. But I did serve for 24 years. I did my job well, and I was away from my family. No one's going to argue that.
No.
But when you try to one-up somebody, when you didn't earn that, especially combat, and again, neither one of us were in the military, but knowing plenty of guys who were in the military, being in the police department, how things work, like, we talked about earlier, you don't put on a bravery or a valor ribbon if you never made it. All right. You don't do that shit. That's stolen valor.
Because again, you're working with people who know the truth.
They're going to turn around and go, they're going to look at the color of your ribbon, and they're going to turn around and go, how did you get that from?
Yeah.
And they're going to turn, and like, everybody knows, like, no, you didn't.
No. I would, yeah. Yeah, no.
And it takes away from everybody else who did get awarded those medals because they served with bravery or valor or whatever. So I think sometimes you have to kind of be in that club to really understand. You don't do that. You just don't do it.
And that's that. Just don't do it. Opposite of me.
He's going to have to explain that at the end of the day.
Yeah, but are they going to push him? And I don't have confidence.
I think Vance will. I think Vance will.
Vance will, but will the question be asked?
Vance will
open the door.
Vance is going to find a way to squeeze it in.
Yeah, and that also brings me to, just real quick before we go to the next subject on Tommy Robinson. This has nothing to do with it. But like I said, debate time's coming up. So as far as I know right now, Trump and Harris, they're going to debate September 10th. Originally, Trump said, no, I wanted September 4th on Fox News, and I'll do September 10th. But I also want one after that. So Trump is going to give her ABC, I think, is September 10th. NBC, I believe, after that. The Fox News before. Harris doesn't want to do any.
Well, you know why?
In fact, Harris is saying, I'll debate again, but not till October. What happens then? Mail-in ballots. So people are already going to start voting early.
And the rumor mill was, and I was listening to Tim Pool, and I forget who he pulled up on X or whoever. Someone made a I forget the person's name, but they were fairly reputable, and I think they were talking to a whistleblower in the Secret Service. And apparently, the rumor is that they are preparing Rikers Island for Trump to go to jail.
Well, sentencing is, I think, September 18th.
And that's why she hasn't committed to anything after that. That's the rumor.
Hey, fine, do it. Well, he needs a boost in the polls, honestly, because every time you come after the dude, his numbers just go up.
But they haven't stopped.
In jail.
They haven't stopped at anything. They tried to kill this. They're not going to stop.
Listen, I still think, and we can do prediction time at the end of this just for shits and giggles and then revisit it come November. But I'm still standing by what I said years ago. Do I think Trump can win? Yes. Do I think they're going to let him? No. And I'll leave it at that. And I think now,
I don't think they're done. Well,
I think it's easier
because
Biden, he was essentially a corpse. Like he couldn't speak. The debate was horrendous for him. So they set up a coup against him. They installed Harris, who can at least speak a little bit better. She doesn't make sense, but she's coherent as far as you can understand the words coming out of the mouth. Maybe you can't comprehend the sentence that she's putting them in because it's all word salads. But she's more lively. She doesn't have a bedtime of like 4 p.m. After her pudding. But now it's a little bit easier for her. Listen, if there was shenanigans in 2020 election, which I think there was, but if there was, now it's going to be easier. Biden allegedly got 81 million votes. Trump got like 76 million allegedly. Now, I think both Republicans and Democrats cheat. I do. I think Democrats just happen to be a little bit better at it, at least sometimes. I think they both use the same tactics. In order for Biden to have won, if he stayed in, you got to assume that he's got to get 81 million again, or even slightly above that, which nobody's going to believe.
And now you would think that the Republicans are on to the games.
Yeah.
And you would think that they're on to the games of 2020, and now we know to look out for this.
This is all my opinion, based on allegedly no evidence of what everybody says. But I mean, it's a little bit of common sense can show you that 81 million people, in my opinion, did not vote for Joe Biden. Anyway, let's segue that into Tony Robinson.
No, I thought you were going to the Secret Service. Okay. I thought okay.
Well, we can do a little switcheroo. We'll do Secret Service breastfeeding.
Because we're talking about like not letting him in. And
okay, let's go into that.
So with the Secret Service, I mean,
we'll put Tommy Robinson next.
Yeah.
Let's go into breastfeeding of the Secret Service.
It's a great place to work. So, I mean, now we were just talking about like, they're not going to let him win, or they're going to find a way for, again, open this window up, to try and let something maybe happen again. And now we have a Secret Service agent whoever the head Secret Service agent of that detail was making their rounds, checking their posts, and found that one post was abandoned by a female Secret Service agent who was in I don't know if they call it the safe room. It's basically a restricted area where if something happens, that's where they're going to put Trump or something like that, or whoever the dignitary, whoever the protections for. She's in there breastfeeding or milking. I don't know what the word would be.
Breastfeeding.
But pumping. I don't know if she was actually breastfeeding or pumping, whatever it was. She's in that room, and apparently she has family members in that room who have no access to being there. I don't even know if she had access to being there. Abandons her post without, allowance, or permission. And, this is again, like, look, first of all, I blame whoever the supervisor is. If you have a female agent who is going through this, she's not on the street.
Why put it?
She's on admin duty.
Yeah. And
here's your room. If you have to do that, you do what you got to do. But in the meantime, no, you're not on the street because this is a compromise.
Not protecting, not a protectee.
Right. It's just compromise. You can't if you can't do your job or this has to happen. Like, no, you can't do it.
So I got an article from Fox News. Secret Service investigating report agent left post to breastfeed during Trump campaign. This happened in North Carolina. Secret Service is investigating a report that a female agent reportedly left her post at a Trump campaign event in North Carolina to breastfeed. Secret Service acknowledged the allegations and issued a statement to Fox News saying all employees of the U.S. Secret Service are held to the highest standards.
How high is that standard? That bar is set pretty friggin' low lately.
While there was no impact to the North Carolina event, that doesn't matter. The specifics of the incident are being examined. Given this is a personnel matter, we are not in a position to comment further. Of course not. A spokesperson for the agency said. Real Clear Politics correspondent Susan Crabtree first reported the allegation and said that a female Secret Service agent had abandoned her post at Trump's event to breastfeed with no permission or warning to the event site agent. Now, the site agent in the Secret Service is that site specifically, in charge of that site specifically, where you have, I think, what is it, the event agent or whatever has the overall, I can't remember.
Special agent in charge or whatever it is, yeah.
The site agent went to do one final sweep of the walking route and found the agent breastfeeding her child in a room that is supposed to be set aside for important Secret Service official work, i.e. a potential emergency related to the president. Crabtree wrote in a post on X.
So they're not denying that this happened. They're not denying that that she abandoned her post. This wasn't like, oh no, she had permission. I mean, at this point, explain, and I blame Trump too. I mean, he's a billionaire, whether it's 1 billion, 2 billion, 4 billion, I don't know. But at this point, if I'm him, remember the scene I was telling about this the other night? Remember the scene in Gladiator where Russell Crowe's walking down and his buddy with the scar on his face comes up to him.
Yeah.
And he says to him, he goes, how are the men? Fat and bored. There are so many military veterans from Special Operations Group, SEALs, Delta, Rangers, whatever you want to call them, Green Berets. There's so many people unemployed or at home with an unbelievable skill set that cannot be used in the regular world. Why isn't he, and these guys will put the Secret Service to bed. I mean, let's be honest. To act like the Secret Service would do a better job than these guys is a joke. Mm-hmm. These guys, why Trump doesn't call up guys in the, like say like Jocko Willink, and ask, find me some guys, or Mike Glover, or Sean Ryan, or any of these guys, and say, vet me some guys. I need a couple dozen guys, whatever the number may be. I need to vet these guys. I'm trusting you guys because these guys are the real deal. They're honorable guys. They're doing great work on their podcast and getting the word out. Get 2 dozen or 3 dozen of these guys and then say, the hell with the Secret Service. I'm not using you guys. This is the way it's going to be done from now on in. I don't know why. I have no idea why.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's something written down where it has to be Secret Service.
Sorry.
You can rewrite that.
Yeah, guess what? It's getting rewritten.
Or at the very least, supplement the Secret Service.
Here's the thing. This deal was made, or whatever, with this contract, whatever you want to call it, was made under the assurance that you're giving me the best.
Yeah.
And clearly people milking, doing with that. And listen, I understand.
It's natural.
It's natural. But like you said, she should on this detail now.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I mean, it's just ridiculous. And again, this is Trump. He should be saying, you know what? I don't need these guys anymore. These guys can work the outer perimeter. I want my guys on the inner perimeter, and have former, special operations guys, who are squared away running this like a well-oiled machine. Yeah. That's me. If I had that money, you guys are done.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Sure, there's very good Secret Service agents. And guess what? If Trump gets in office, you make Bongino head of the Secret Service, clean this place up, and then we go back to it.
No. Well, I would love for him to do, but that guy he's got a very important role in what he does now, Dan Bongino. Hat tip to him. That's your word, by the way. Hat tip to him.
Then let Bongino pick somebody who can do it.
He's now, I'm not saying he can't advise.
That's what I mean. Let him advise.
He has said, I listen to Bongino a lot, and he has said, President offered him a position, he would see what he can do temporarily and help, whatever it can be. But I think he has a very important role, what he's doing now in growing, as he calls it, the Pangino Army, trying to collect new people, for this conservative movement. And
But here's what's good. He can put now, not that I say he wouldn't, he can put his money where his mouth is. He's been talking a lot, and I agree. I'm not by any means saying he's full of it, but now it's time. Like, I would love to say, you know what, you've talked a good game, and I believe you. I need you now to be boots on the ground for me.
I mean, part of me thinks that if it came down to it, he
would do it.
probably
He would
would.
do it.
He knows Trump. He believes in Trump. I know that just from listening to him, and I believe that what he says.
Or advice. I'm picking
He'll
you.
absolutely
I'm picking you
advise.
to pick someone.
I think he would absolutely advise.
Pick you to pick someone.
Yeah. It really comes down to, I mean, I guess you're not going to know. You can assume all you want, kind of like we're assuming with the presidency what's going to happen. I worry has now come, like, kind of on a different note. Come October or November, let's say Trump wins, because now you have Radisson, not Radisson, what's his name? Jamie, I can't think.
Raskin?
Raskin. You got Jamie Raskin saying,
Yeah.
like, you see that video where
Yeah,
he
he
said
was-
that, if he wins, it's going to be up to us to basically say, no, you're disqualified.
And I'm like, isn't
You-
that election
you-
interference or
It's not
overthrowing the government?
That's literally, you're doing, like, straight off the bat what you're accusing Trump of having done, or at least had a hand in.
rules
come
for
January
radicals.
6th.
Accuse those of what you're doing.
I mean, and like, you don't think, like, you don't want a civil war, and you want calm, and you're going to just go do that? Like, what do you think that would cause?
I think if Trump was killed, that would have caused a civil war. I think this would even be worse if he were elected.
And then denied.
This man,
That's scary. That's scary.
you know what?
That's-
It's scary, but
it's scary to think
I
about.
wouldn't be scared.
I'm not saying I'd be scared, but
No,
it's
no, no,
scary
no.
to think about for the country.
It's hey, you know what? Let's talk about this. What if you think it would?
Yeah, because you don't know the outcome. Any kind of war that involves your country, you don't know the outcome is scary.
So this is something.
You never walk in like, oh, and get.
But the problem is, it's, you know what? I don't want to downscale it too much, but if people keep picking one and keep hitting you and stealing your money, you can do two things. You can allow it to keep happening. And, I'm not getting whatever. I don't have to. I know this is the devil I know.
Yeah.
Or do I fight back? And again, this is just talking. Okay, I'm not asking for this to happen, but everybody talks about what happens if we go down this road, and everybody always said, "Well, I hope it doesn't happen." Boy, that would be bad. Well, it wouldn't be good, but at the same time, let's talk about what happens if you actually hit the bully back.
The Revolutionary, not the
I'm
Civil
just-
War.
I'm
The
just-
Civil War
I'm just
happens.
saying,
The
like-
Revolutionary War
Well,
happens.
so we look at our Civil
If you
War,
think about it,
right?
yeah.
Well, so what I've said before is people. This seems to be a taboo subject. No one wants to go down here. We're just talking, so everybody calm down. But name me a time anywhere in history, and I may be wrong, but name me a time anywhere in history where the government has just given people their rights back or given them more freedom without the people kinetically having to go to get
Say-
it back.
to say-
Just name me a time
To
where
say the government gave the people their rights back, I don't even like that, because the government didn't grant you those rights. They're supposed to protect the rights that were God given.
but they don't. Because again, we're saying there's a God-given rights, but they're enforced by people.
But that's the difference between today's conservatives and yesteryear's liberals.
So the question remains 1775, 1776, to 1781, whatever you want to say,
Yeah.
we weren't getting anything back unless we fought for it.
Mhm.
The Civil War, blacks would have remained. And again, there was a lot more to the Civil War, but of course, slavery was the big known
Huge.
one.
Yeah.
Blacks would have stayed enslaved unless people said, yeah, we got to fight for this.
Mhm.
Okay. And again, there's more to it, but that's what would have happened. In, 1964, you have the Civil Rights Act. If it wasn't for people getting more involved, and then there were violent riots. All right. It's one of those things where you hate to say it, but it's like you want to avoid violence at all costs. Clearly, if you want to be part of a civilized society, but you know, World War II, violence solves problems sometimes.
Yeah, I'm
And
not
I'm not
saying
asking for it,
yeah.
but
Nobody
how many times can you get kicked in the teeth before you turn around and say this isn't going to happen? And if they're going to actually overthrow a presidency, of course, you want to go up that scale and say, well, no, we don't want to be violent, and there's going to be protests, and there's going to be this, and there's going to be that. But, and this would be a good segue for Tommy Robinson, but, and again, I'm just talking. But this is the part I feel like people don't have the balls to talk about. At what point does protesting just not work anymore? Just something for you guys to think about. Clearly, I don't want it to happen. But if they keep putting their boot on your throat and they literally deny you the president you voted for, at what point do we turn around and go, the system is broke?
well, you kind of when you think about it,
Just talking.
when you think about it, it's almost kind of ironic how this country, this idea was formed based off of an insurrection.
The whole country was
And
founded
then,
under an insurrection.
but the ironic part is once that happened and we won and we formed our country, we outlawed insurrection.
Because we trust the process. So what happens is, yes, you outlaw an insurrection. An insurrection should be 100% outlawed, but the rules that were put in place to avoid the insurrection guarantee people the rights that this wouldn't need to happen. So the way you avoid an insurrection is you put these rules in place and go, you don't need to have an insurrection because we can overthrow the government by voting. All right. But if your votes are now
In question,
or just whatever, thrown in.
because I'll be honest,
Well, if you're not playing by the rules, then again, there's no country.
I just don't have confidence in our elections.
No,
Or I don't.
that's
Am I
my
going to go
premise.
out and vote? Yes, because you have to.
Sure.
You absolutely have to. Do I believe in mail-in votes? No, I think you should go in person. Aside from the select few military and so on and so forth.
Yeah, if you're away, if
yeah.
you're overseas or there's
But no, I don't
sure.
think there should be like just blanket mail-in ballots goes to anybody for any reason whatsoever. I don't think I don't think that's conducive to a proper election.
No,
and
it's
one
not.
that should
And-
be instilling confidence in the American people. I don't, especially when you have the same people who are fighting for blanket mail-in ballots. The same people were complaining about mail-in ballots and how easy they are to manipulate and the rejection rate just 5 or 6 years before they wanted to instill it into the system.
Right.
Like, there's got to be these red flags, and I'm sorry, man. Maybe some liberals are going to watch us. Doubt you're going to watch us far into it.
I
But
need some
guess
old
what?
school,
There's
but-
going to be little chapters down there by the timeline. If something gauges your interest, just go right to that. I don't care. But for the liberals out there,
This is everything you guys used to fight.
Yeah, and now you are the machine.
And it's funny is the conservatives up today, they're a blend of different things, but they have old school liberal in them. The
Classic.
the classical liberals,
Yeah.
libertarian, some traditional, because they really are a hybrid of a few things.
I would even argue that today's conservatives are fighting to get the old conservatives out.
100% because we're tired of wars.
Yes.
We're tired of wars. Again,
Yeah.
everything liberals used to complain about in the streets from Vietnam and the old conservatives, they were up. And listen, I was 24 or 5 or whatever when we went to Iraq, and I was 100% for it because I believe the bullshit. I
Yeah.
believe weapons of mass destruction. Saddam had a hand in this. Why? Because they tugged on your emotions that were still very fresh from 9/11.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
keep doing it. And you know what? I'm 100% against the draft. I feel like the 13th Amendment, when they had the 13th Amendment was about involuntary servitude. And then I believe it went to the Supreme Court and they talked about the draft. They're like, well, no, not the draft. Well, why? Why isn't the draft in there? Well, because they wouldn't be able to do their bidding when they wanted to, because, this country runs, let me rephrase that. The politicians in this country, DC runs on war.
Mhm.
They run on war. And if they can't have war, they can run the way they want. And am I against the draft? I'm 100% against it now. I used to watch There was an All in the Family episode. I don't know if you remember All in the Family.
I love all. Like,
There was an episode.
Jeffersons. I love all
There was
those shows. That this country needs those shows.
Oh
back.
yeah, it's just the hard, whatever, unfiltered.
Yeah.
The way I want to say it,
Dude, him and
But-
George Jefferson when they
They
were
were
together
great.
were awesome.
But there was an episode where Meathead brings his buddy over for dinner. I think it was Christmas or
Mhm.
Christmas Eve, and his buddy turns out to be a draft dodger for Vietnam. Now I watched that episode years ago, and I remember thinking this dude's a coward. He's a piece of garbage. He wouldn't even be welcomed at my table, and blah blah blah. And then you get older, and you kind of go, and the dude didn't say he dodged the draft because he was afraid to fight. He just was against the war, which now we all know was nonsense.
Mhm.
And 58,000 Americans died for nothing, and how many innocent civilians over there died. I sound like a little liberal. My point is, I watched that video several years ago and thought he was wrong. Now I watched the video today and I go, honestly, I think this dude actually is brave for being able to go, you know what? If I get locked up, I get locked up. If I have to flee, I'll flee. But I am not going to fight for a government
It doesn't fight for me.
that doesn't fight for me.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I never really thought of it like that.
You know. So again, there should be less. There should be a lot less violence.
I never really thought about the draft that much. But my opinion has always been kind of simplified. Like, listen, if my country drafted me, I'm not gonna dodge it because I love the country and I would fight for the country. But no, when you bring up a point like that, like why fight for a country that's not really going to fight for you? They may talk
Like blacks.
a good game. They might talk a good game.
Blacks were. I mean, look. I forget when we went into Vietnam. I think the Civil Rights Act may have passed. I'm not 100% sure.
No, I would say that
But we'll go World War II.
I would say it didn't pass yet.
Blacks enlisted in World War II. I don't think they were drafted. I think they enlisted for a country that hated them
Yeah.
at the time. Not all the country, but most of them. Okay. And you look at, you look at Vietnam. Blacks were drafted and went over there and fought honorably for a country that fucking hated them.
And then when they came back,
And when they came back, they were treated like shit too,
Yeah.
just like the whites were treated like shit. But at least they weren't treated like shit because they were white. They were treated like shit because they were a Vietnam vet.
but now the other was treated like shit for both.
They got both.
Yeah.
They got both ends of it.
Yeah.
So you know what? Again, I sound like an old liberal here, but I don't know, guys. Talk about it in the comments. Tell me where I'm wrong. That this country hates you and just uses you for cannon fodder. I mean, we're too old to go into the draft now. If we were invaded, would I pick up arms and fight? Absolutely. Would I go to Ukraine and fight for the oligarchs to make one? Pound sand. Absolutely. And if I had a kid the age, nope, I wouldn't want them to go either. So you're not going to send off my kids to fight for you to be rich. If we haven't learned from Vietnam and Iraq, then shame on you.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
At one point during that whole thing, we had a segue to Tommy Robinson, but we lost that. So we're just going to do a
Well, we're talking about England. We're talking about the Revolutionary War in England.
So we're going to do a hard segue right
Yeah.
now. So go ahead, Tommy Robinson. You know a little bit more about this than I do. So I guess you could. So correct me if I'm wrong. Now these riots is it Britain?
Yeah.
So these riots, were these the ones that stemmed in reference to the stabbing that occurred? That people said there was misinformation that it was an illegal alien, an illegal immigrant that committed the stabbings, and then it came out that he wasn't.
I think I think this has been brewing for a while. Then that happened. It wasn't an illegal alien. I believe that he was he was, I don't know, he was Somali, but he was an actual English citizen,
Yeah,
and his parents were immigrants or something like that.
he was born in Britain.
There was some,
Correct.
I believe so. Yes, there was some misinformation, but this has been brewing for a long while. And Tommy Robinson's been talking about this well before these incidents. I mean, like several years he's been talking about this. He's been put in jail without trial. He was thrown into solitary confinement. He was starved, I believe. They put hits on him in jail. The government was putting hits on him in jail. I mean, it's just insane. I mean, again, as garbage as our government is, England's kind of hold my tea. So
Is that a pun?
no, well, yeah,
Hold my
I
tea?
can't say hold my beer. I mean, hold my tea.
Well, I mean, is that a pun for the
It's English.
Tea Party?
Well,
taxing.
I wasn't. Well, yeah. Well, whatever. Sure.
That's good.
If I come off savvier with that show,
Sure, you'll go.
well, yeah, sure. But I mean, now what he's doing is he has not called for violence. He's calling for protest. He's calling for people on the street, and of course, they're saying they're far right wingers. And it again, it's I don't know. It kind of backfires if you're saying I'm concerned about underage girls being raped, and if the majority of the rape is occurring by migrants who are not assimilating to English culture, if that makes me a far right winger, well, what's it say for you when you allow terrorists? And I don't care if the migrants are the problem because that's where the majority of it's happening in those communities. It's happening there. So you're going to focus on, it's prioritize and execute. So the priority is in this area. This is where we need to execute a plan to stop it. They are kind of shying away from it because it's like, well, it doesn't look good because they're migrants. It doesn't matter if they're migrants or they're just white English people. I am not going to sit there and be any less mad if these are all just white English people who were just doing this. It's like Jeffrey Epstein's a perfect example. Why you still haven't got the client list. All right. And I can guarantee you that the majority of that client list are going to be rich white people. And I think they should be in jail, if not worse. But so it has nothing to do with the race, color, creed, nationality. It's the crime. But if it's in this country, if it's rich white elitists, or if in England, it's Somali migrants, it doesn't matter. You go to where the problem is. And if the problem happens to be the same color as you, then so be it. If it's an opposite color of you, then so be it.
But that's when it's the opposite color, when it's the opposite of like the Democrat way, their identity politics. That's where you are now shifted into the far right extremists. I mean, that compared to whatever other his views. I don't really follow Tommy Robinson that much. I've seen a couple videos, but honestly, like I should probably care. I should probably care a little bit more what happens in the UK
because it's gonna be down to
the shifts. Yeah,
or I'm sorry, maybe it's up. Wow, maybe it's upstream from us, and it's gonna wind up because what they're doing here is they are going after it. Like he hasn't even broken any laws. Like what we here would consider laws.
That's the thing we hear. I read an article the other day that one of their chief of police over there are basically saying like, I'm going to arrest people for sharing.
Yeah, and they said we don't have a problem coming over here, or if you were, I forget exactly how he said it, but he was implying basically, yeah, if you're not from the country, we'll go after. It's like, well, go pound sand, dude. Yeah, there's a reason why.
That's the country.
There's a reason why we went to war with you back then.
Yeah, so and you're doing the same thing.
And you're doing the same thing. Yeah. So what they're doing with Tommy is basically they're going to use, it's hate speech. Well, what the hell does that mean? And that's what they're going to kind of go on there.
Hate speech is really like,
it's subjective.
It is. You can't. There is no definition for it.
So I hate
that the version that's hate. Okay, but who is the ultimate arbiter of hate? Who is the one who? Okay, that's hateful. Well, if it's not hateful to me, but it's hateful to you. Well, who's the ultimate decider who says, "Oh yeah, well, okay, we can label that hate speech."
Well, here's the thing.
And guess what? Even if it is hate speech in America, it's protected under the First Amendment.
Well, if the hate speech is directed towards pederasts,
that's
rapists, am I not allowed to hate them?
That's the thing.
That's why. Even if you're right, oh, that's hate speech. It's like you're right. You're damn. I hate rapists. I hate child rapists.
That's hate speech because you got to hate it.
But what am I supposed to do? Like it? It's. Do you hate Somalis? No. Do you hate migrants? No. Do you hate a Somali migrant that's a rapist? Yes. Well, what's changed in the questioning?
Yeah.
That all of a sudden I said, yeah. Oh, you add the word rapist.
Yes. I hate rapists. And if that's going to,
that's it.
The date of that is hate speech.
It's not the person, it's the act.
Yeah. I know I'm making sense. I'm a little roll. Can't do that. I can't do it. Monkeypox. There's no segue to get.
No, there's no segue to monkeypox.
Monkeypox.
But it's election season.
Monkeypox is here. I got an article here, and this is from the World Health Organization. The WHO director general declares monkeypox outbreak public health emergency of international concern. Why have we heard that? Now, this isn't going in there saying that. Now, there are people you can see on X. I've seen a couple posts saying that they're calling for lockdowns and all that stuff. In this article, it doesn't say that, and it's not going to say that because this is right from the World Health Organization, so they're not going to be transparent what they want to do. I don't foresee lockdowns coming, but I definitely foresee them scaring you. But the thing is, this is mainly sexually transmitted, right? From what I read, this is mainly sexually transmitted disease.
So is this like the
So
new version of AIDS?
don't tell me to throw on masks for this, because that's not going to help. Maybe it will, depending on how what the mask is blocking.
It's like, why I don't want this is like like I said, is this like the 2024 version of HIV?
Let's read a little bit. In declaring the PHEIC, Dr. Tedros, Dr. Tedros is
what was in it? Was he with the WHO?
Yeah, Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this last word.
No.
Ghebreyesus has determined that the upsurge of mpox is the Democratic Republic of Congo, and a growing number of counties in Africa constitutes a public health emergency of international concern under the International Health Regulations of 2005. In declaring the PHEIC, Dr. Tedros said the emergence of a new clade of Mpox's rapid spread in eastern DRC and the reporting of cases in several neighboring countries are very worrying. On top of outbreaks of other Mpox clades in DRC and
what's
other
DRC?
countries,
Dominican?
No. The Congo.
Oh, okay.
The Democratic
Republic of Congo. Okay.
Yeah. No. Whatever. Anyway, there's it's somewhere in there. So I'm going to try. Here we go. I'm going to try and find out, because I know it did say something about it being mainly sexually. Here we go. Committee Chair Professor Dimi. Oh, these names are nuts. The current upsurge of mpox in parts of Africa, along with the spread of the new sexually transmissible strain of the monkeypox virus, is an emergency not only for Africa but for the entire globe. Red flag 1. Mpox originating in Africa was neglected there and later caused a global outbreak in 2022. Wasn't like, I remember it.
It was like,
I remember them talking about
very brief.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, we're going to try to just talk about this, how scary it is. Oh, go away. And then we're bringing it up again.
But here's where I think people might be getting a little, throwing up their red flags. It is time to act decisively to prevent history from repeating itself. What does that mean? How are you going to act decisively? What are you doing? I know they're talking about vaccines for it.
Yeah, well, guess what? I'm married, and that's it. I don't think I have to worry about a sexual.
In July 2022, the multi-country outbreak of Mpox was declared a PHEIC as it spread rapidly via sexual contact across a range of countries. If the virus had not been seen, where the virus had not been seen before.
I think you just need to get married.
It was declared over in May 2023 after there had been a sustained decline in global cases.
Like the plague is still, it's never really gone.
Yeah.
Like the plague is still out there.
Yeah.
Not, a common cold or anything, but it's still out there. You can still get the bubonic plague.
I had that last summer.
Yeah, it was, yeah. That's so good. I didn't even see it was once. Yeah, I mean, look, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. It's sexually transmitted, or if that's the major, I'm not worried about it. So, and again, it's election season, so who the hell knows? Do your homework. I mean, do your homework. We saw what happened with COVID. You know who the reputable sources are. The people who, when they did talk about it, they were very open-minded. So listen to those doctors, listen to the podcasters who have those doctors on. And in the meantime, well, I mean, you should always be careful of whatever you're doing sexually. You never know who, I'm serious. Like, you don't know who has what anyway.
It's true.
So, but other than that, like, it's like, I look at it as like right now it's a non-story.
But it's nowhere near as scary as COVID. It's because even when it was out in 2022, it didn't
Well,
cause as much global panic as COVID.
they'll start talking about the mortality rate to scare people. So
Well,
COVID's
maybe
mortality,
CNN will throw up another
right,
death
they'll
toll
put up
like
a
they
death
did.
clock, or the mortality.
Yeah.
Even though it's rare, the mortality rate is 40%.
Yeah.
Compared to COVID, which was point whatever.
Yeah.
So I know that's, but yeah, I'm not, whatever. It's a non-story now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they try to cook it up for a reason later, or just to trying to find a way to get lockdowns going.
Yeah, I don't think this one's going to gain as much traction,
No.
honestly.
I don't think
COVID was new. COVID was, they actually did a really good job of scaring the crap out of everybody. I remember I was Lysol boxes in the beginning because we didn't know.
You don't know what you don't know. And then a couple months later, you're like, I don't know about this. And then a couple months after that, you're like, hey, this is ridiculous.
After I got COVID, and it's pretty early. I think it was December. Yeah, it was December of 2020. When I got it, luckily for me, it wasn't that bad. But
You got it in December of 2020?
yeah, that's when it came. That's
Oh, you got it early.
I got it early.
Oh, okay.
I had alpha, baby.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say we had it in March of 21.
Yeah, I had alpha.
Oh, it kicked my ass. I'm not going to lie. It was I don't thankfully get sick very often, but I mean, it was like a bad flu.
Well, see, mine was me and my wife, both of us. She lost her smell and taste for a few days. I lost my smell for about, I think, 3 or 4 days, and that was it. There was no fever, a little runny nose, maybe that's it. No cough. But like I said, thankfully, cat's here.
Yeah, sure.
Thankfully that I didn't get it. I know people who have gotten it really bad and were hospitalized.
Oh, yeah. No,
I had family members who were hospitalized. Luckily, nobody died of it.
I say it was a bad flu because I don't get it very often, but it was, I was sore.
But the point is,
chills for a couple of days.
The point is, we didn't know what that was. This one, we kind of already know what it is. It is what it is. And it's not in COVID. We didn't know how we can get your telling us to put a mask on. That's when I stopped with the mask. I was like, all right, I just had COVID. I have immunity now. I got this thing when I was wearing your mask that you told me.
What scared me with COVID was when they started shutting down like the NBA and the NHL. I'm like, wow, they're shutting down major sporting.
It's got to be serious.
I was like, this has got to be pretty serious. And then, again, you play it on, you don't know, so you always try to err on the side of caution. And then, over time, I'm like, yeah, no, this is not what they're trying to make it to be. But and then, you can't have a barbecue, but by all means, right. So, whatever. We're past that. I'm not worried about this. Not now, anyway. So, but anything else?
That's it for now.
That's it.
I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch either the whole episode or whatever part you did. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment, do all that good stuff. Check out our page on YouTube. We do have a few shorts on there in reference to motivation. Chris did a nice 5-minute video or a 6-minute video, which is really, really good. And I just kind of piggybacked and did a really quick minute short on it. Check all those out. Like, subscribe, comment. If we can do anything different. We did kind of, we're hoping that the picture quality is a little bit better this week. If it's not, we're going to get better. Like I said, we're new at this whole video stuff. We were doing audio for a while, which is a lot easier, but we're only going to get better as we go. So as we grow, we hope you grow with us. Until then, God bless America. Have a good week.
Thanks, boys.